Leo believed he understood love. He had rehearsed it in his head 1,000 times. The perfect restaurant, the right words, the ring that would make everything inevitable. In his mind, love was a sequence of grand gestures, an equation where the right inputs produced the desired future. Maya was the constant in that equation, the woman who fit every frame of his imagined life. The night he chose was one of those rare warm autumn evenings that smelled of roasted chestnuts and streetlight. The restaurant hummed with low conversation. A violinist played something that felt like a memory. Leo felt steady, certain. He had rehearsed the speech, the pause, the smile. When the ring box opened, the world narrowed to the small circle of light on the jewel and the look he expected to see on Maya's face. Instead, her face fell. For a moment, the violinist's bow scraped a wrong note, and the room tilted. Maya's fingers tightened around her napkin. "It's too fast, Leo," she whispered, and the words landed like a stone. "This feels like a down payment for something I'm not ready to give." He heard the sentence, but not its meaning. In his head, the ring was a key. In her hands, it felt like a contract. The certainty that had been his compass turned brittle. He left the restaurant with the ring still in his pocket and a new certainty forming. She didn't love him enough. Anger is a quick, convincing liar. It told him that the problem was hers, not his. It led him to the office after hours, to a coworker named Jenna who had always been easy with a laugh and a look. She listened with exaggerated sympathy, then leaned closer. The office lights were dim, the city outside a smear of neon. For a single terrible moment, Leo imagined the scene as proof. Proof he could be desired. Proof that Maya's refusal was a mistake. But when Jenna's invitation became clear, something in him recoiled. He saw, in the glass of the office window, his own reflection, tired, hollow-eyed, holding out a version of love that looked exactly like the transaction Maya had feared. The image was small and sharp, a man trying to buy back his pride with someone else's company. He left without a word, the taste of shame worse than any wine. Shame, however, is not always private. Jenna, stung and petty, sent a message that read like a blade. "Leo tried to get with me tonight. Guess your relationship wasn't as solid as you thought. It was crafted to wound and timed to land where it would hurt most." When Leo went to Maya to explain, he found a different woman. The warmth in her eyes had been replaced by a cold, precise hurt. "You proved my greatest fear," she said, voice trembling but steady. "The moment it got hard, you went looking for the easiest version of love you could find." There was no dramatic shouting, no last-minute confession that would fix everything. There was only the slow, irrevocable cracking of trust. Leo watched the life he had pictured dissolve into a winter of silence. The months that followed were not cinematic reconciliations. They were small, stubborn acts of repair, acts that had nothing to do with winning Maya back, and everything to do with learning who he was when no one was applauding. He began therapy, the kind that asks you to sit with the parts of yourself you'd rather avoid. He learned to name the impulses that had driven him: entitlement, impatience, the belief that love could be purchased. He also started volunteering at a community shelter. The shelter had no audience, no applause, only the steady grinding work of feeding people, listening to stories, and showing up when it was inconvenient. There, Leo learned a different vocabulary for love: patience, presence, and the humility of doing without expectation. He scrubbed pots, handed out blankets, and listened to a woman tell him about a son she hadn't seen in years. Each small, anonymous kindness felt like a brick laid in a foundation he had never built before. He sent Maya one message, simple, unadorned. "I'm not asking for forgiveness, I'm just sorry for everything." He did not flood her with explanations. He did not promise change he could not yet prove. He let silence do its work, and he let time be the measure of his sincerity. Months later, at a mutual friend's wedding, the world seemed to conspire with memory. The reception was a blur of laughter and light. Leo stood at the edge of the room, a quiet figure, in a suit that suddenly felt too formal for the humility he was learning. Across the dance floor, Maya moved like a memory he could no longer touch. He did not approach. He gave her a respectful nod and turned away. The night ended with the old ritual, guests throwing rice, laughter spilling into the night. Leo was walking to his car when a tap on his shoulder stopped him. He turned. Maya stood there, eyes rimmed with tears that were not angry but not entirely forgiving either. "I heard what you've been doing," she said. "The shelter, everything." He could have recited the lessons he'd learned. Instead, he said the truth. "I had to learn that love isn't a key to unlock what you want. It's a foundation to build something that lasts. A foundation needs respect, commitment, and selflessness. I failed at all three." She looked at him for a long time, as if measuring the distance between words and actions. "I don't trust you," she said honestly. "But I believe you're learning. And maybe that's a foundation too." There was no cinematic embrace, no triumphant music. Instead, Leo opened the car door for her, a small, deliberate act of service. He did not reach for her hand. He did not ask for anything. He offered a courtesy that had once felt like a given and now felt like a promise to himself. As they drove away, the city lights blurred into a ribbon of gold. The future was not the neat picture Leo had once painted. It was a long road of small choices, of showing up when it was easier not to, of building trust brick by painful brick. Maya's forgiveness, if it ever came, would be earned. But for the first time, Leo understood the work that love required, not the grand gesture that opens a door, but the steady labor that keeps a house standing through storms. Outside, the night was quiet. Inside, two people sat in a car that smelled faintly of rain and new beginnings. The engine hummed. The road ahead was uncertain, but for the first time it felt honest.